about 7 in the morning.
Well, we left Ludington. Pretty smooth sailing getting off the dock. Only problem we're having is with our autopilot. For some reason, every time he puts it in, it keeps spinning us around. So, making for an interesting morning. But the lake is clear, right? The lake is clear, there's nobody here, and we got the best pilot around, so I'm not worried. Notice the Car Ferry Express is coming out of the Muskegon port. We're just gonna miss it. The thing's not messing around. Look how fast that's going. That's going fast.
So it is officially last day of July, first day of August, and we are boatless. The boat is down at Barrett's, still getting the house batteries worked on, and Kathy and Ollie and I are down at the marina at the park passing the time. It's a beautiful summer evening. You can see the Badger behind us, and it's kind of strange life without a boat, especially knowing that we're 2 months from leaving and the boat's not here. We can't work on our projects, we can't get things on our list done. It's just a strange time. So we find ourselves milling around down at the docks. We went down for a nice little dinghy ride, and Mr. Furley's got a slow leak. Nothing to be concerned about, but we definitely need the compressor, so no dinghy ride tonight.
Yeah, so Mr. Furley has got a little bit of a leak. We think it's because it gets cold at night and warm during the day, but it was a little squishy and kind of a low drop to get Ollie into the dinghy, which I think would be okay with the life jacket on, of course. But getting him back out of the dinghy, it's even lower than our swim platform. So, and he has a hard time with that sometimes. So I just, to me, it was just too many red flags. And that's, I think that's the first rule of the boaters, to go with
Where's
your gut.
your sense of adventure?
I am ready, but there's just certain things that you shouldn't push. And a deflated dinghy might not be the best choice of a Monday night.
Well, it is the beginning of August, and we are on the road headed south to the Barrett Boat Works in Spring Lake to check up on Andromeda. We're still in the process of getting our house batteries done and a few other maintenance items we couldn't do ourselves. And we are taking the hour trip south, see how it's going on the progress, and hopefully have them tell us when we can pick it up, because we're anxious to bring it home.
You got the ignition, you got the smart craft, electronic control, the engine. I mean, you have all engine electronics, and if for some reason something happens to these batteries, you'll be able to start your engine, but you won't be able to do anything with it because the controls are on a different power source.
I see.
So I can still put the house
okay
off of these batteries, but these other critical things will be running off your engine batteries. There's your batteries. All four of them are right in there. They're all tucked back. All yet.
Nice.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
And I actually went through the floor, through the ceiling back here, so it's real close to the inverter.
Inverter looks great there. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it turned out nice. It's fixed to the floor and the ceiling.
Is that what's talking to the display? That's the communicator, basically?
That's really the only thing that's talking to this display right now, is that amp meter, basically. Okay. This also has NEMA 2000 capabilities.
Okay.
So I got this adapter, and this is where, like I said, it would have cabled just from this to that display, but then this is the NEMA 2000 from this, and then this is what they call a backbone.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have a cable coming out of this, and it's going to go up to another T, and then these are called terminators, and then it's going to go plug into the Maritron display.
Okay, I got you. And there is the new Belmar alternator, which looks way better, way smaller.
Yeah, and then this is the, I figured this was a halfway decent place to put this. This is the voltage regulator.
Okay.
There is a display, and then there's tweaking adjustments.
That was nice. We got to meet with Chuck, who's the service manager, but Ben is actually doing the wiring and super knowledgeable about all the electronics. We couldn't feel like the boat's in better hands. I mean, Ben is just an all-star with that stuff and can explain everything in ways we can understand, and any little nuances that come up, he seems to know what to do, exactly how to fix them. We talked a little bit about when can we pick up the boat, and Kathy just pointed out that I must have said at least 4 or 5 times, take your time, take your time, I'm in no hurry. So, but I'd rather have the guys doing the work, concentrate on doing the work and feel good about it, than trying to worry about getting the boat home quick because we're anxious. So,
and then you did tell him that, but then you clarified and said, but we want it to be done right.
I think as the calendar flips a new month, you know, we just flipped from July to August. I know myself, but every month that goes by, it's like, oh, we're this many days closer, or we have to leave, and there's so much to do. So yeah, we want the boat back with us, one, just because we love having the boat around, but we do have a lot of things to do. But this is most important right now, and we feel like she's in good hands, and we're glad we got to come down here and go through it with Ben. It was good to do. It was a good afternoon. Well, good morning. We are about 60 days from departure, and it's been a bit of a strange couple weeks. We've been about 4 weeks now without the boat, so we're starting to get anxiety about everything we need to have done on the boat. And today is the day We are heading down to Barrett Boat Works in Spring Lake to pick her up, learn all about our house battery system, check on some of the other things we've had done, and we're also going to meet an old friend, Ed Hislop. You may remember him from one of our earlier videos. He's a retired Cummins engineer and sort of a guru when it comes to Cummins engines, and he's going to do a sea trial with us. Just sort of a one last check on the engines, let him put his ear to it, kind of inspect them, more for peace of mind, but he's a great guy. We don't mind hanging out with him, and he's full of knowledge, so it's going to be fun to hear what he has to say. I'm across the channel this morning from Andromeda's slip. You can see Mr. Furley tucked in the corner there, right next to that Chris craft, and that's been our empty slip for over a month. We are curious to talk to some other loopers, or maybe even you can comment below if you're on the loop or have done the loop, but it is a strange in-between time, especially at about the 60-day mark before we leave. Some days it feels like everything is done and we're good to go and it's time to leave, and other days it feels like we're just never going to be ready. And I'm curious if other people sort of feel that, like it's time to go, everything's locked down, wake up the next morning and think, man, we're never going to be ready to go. Probably a little bit of nerves and anxiety of the unknown, but it's part of what makes it exciting. I have to wrap this walk up relatively quickly and get back over to the marina to get Mr. Furley out of our slip, so that we come pulling in this afternoon, I don't crush and sink Mr. Furley. That's a delay we don't need. The exact day we leave will depend on the weather, but we're 60 days out from our target date today. There is a little list of, some mechanical things, some maintenance things that just need to get done. I'm sure there's plenty enough time to do it. Like Kathy said a few minutes ago, she does work good under pressure.
Some of it, like on my end, you can't do it too early, so I have to kind of wait to do a lot of this last minute, like setting up the boat, switching it from being just a summer boat to a year-round live-aboard. So like I've been slowly trying to switch out the things we don't end up needing and organization stuff, but I can't do too much of it because I can't load it yet.
That's a good point. Some of it is week of or 2 weeks before we go, so it's, even though we have this long list of things, some of it just can't be done until we're packing up the house and packing up the boat to go. So we'll see Andromeda soon and hopefully get to learn all about her new systems, and hopefully she gets a good clean bill of health from Ed and we can bring her home this afternoon and start wrapping our heads around where we're at.
Fingers crossed.
Getting our first look, and we can see where we slid the isolation transformer over. Beautiful job of mounting the inverter. Nice job hiding all the wires. That is our 5-inch Maritron display and our Victron remote to turn on and off the inverter charger. Sort of a last minute change. We just quickly demoed the Victron display and servo, which shows a little more intuitively what's coming and going from the batteries, and it also serves as a replacement for that. It will digitally turn it on and off the charger and inverter. So a little bit last minute change before we splash here. We are going to add that second screen below the Maritron and replace that remote switch with the Victron screen, and quickly install the servo on the house bank so we can see what's coming and going from the battery banks. May not be needed, but we're here. made us a deal we couldn't refuse, so we're just going to go ahead and get that put in real quick before we splash.
Yep, we'll fire up the mains.
Okay.
You can see we're getting 26 amp charge into those house batteries from the alternator. And if you go down and look at that voltage regulator, it has a little digital readout. It's showing 14.1. The alternator is putting out 14.18 volts, which is what an alternator typically does. Right to that, directly to the house battery.
Okay.
Yep. So as you're running, you can be running your inverter all day long. Right now at idle, you're putting 26 amps into it. As your RPMs pick up, the charge will pick up.
So gen power is just like old days. Wouldn't even know the difference. I don't need to monkey with that cabinet.
Nope.
I just want to make sure that accessory charger is on so that I'm charging the battery.
Right. The only time you would flip this switch is when you want to use the inverter. You could leave it on shore, and then you don't have to mess with it. When you get back to your marina, you plug in, you flip this on, turn everything on.
Okay.
The only time you're going to turn this is when you want to use the inverter.
Truly on house power. It's about 2 o'clock. We did a sea trial. Everything went great. House battery system works great. And now I am going to single hand Andromeda back to Ludington. Kathy's taking the car back and I'm gonna drive her home myself. Currently in the Spring Lake channel, coming up on the Coast Guard Station Grand Haven. Kathy is somewhere here to get a video of Andromeda going by, but so far so good. I'm a few minutes from hitting the big water, but quite a unique experience.
I quickly tried to navigate through Grand Haven, not my best suit, but found a nice spot to watch them go by, hopefully. Right across from the big anchor. Not sure if I'm more nervous that he's doing it solo or if I was on there with him. Looks like he's got his bumpers up. We'll see. Maybe not. He can do it. The bumpers are still down, but he'll get them when he gets out on the lake. He can just kind of sit there for a minute, pull them in. I have all the lines with me and the boat pull. So when he pulls into Ludington, I should be able to grab him with the dock line, dock hand. There's my captain. They say the Grand Haven Channel is a little wavier than sometimes in Lake Michigan is because the current from the river coming out and the wind coming in. So he's bouncing a little bit, but we did on the sea trial, and then once you got out there it was fine.
About an hour and a half into my solo run, and coming up on White Lake, the White Lake Inlet. This is sort of where it all began. This is where we used to come up as a kid and do a little salmon fishing, and it's a little surreal to be passing it, flying solo up the coast. I got it on about a 340 bearing, just shy of due north. dock hands, and I may just putz around in the harbor and let them tie up that bid boat before we come rolling in. So we'll see how that goes, but saying ETA to Ludington Harbor for me is about 15-20 minutes at this point. All is well. A couple of white caps, but they are now at my stern and kind of pushing me home, so could be worse. Beginning my approach to Ludington, and I believe I have the 95 footer off my port bow. Again, I'm flying old school here with a compass and a chart and no autopilot. He's got an ETA to Pierhead of 510. It is 504, and I think we're going to hit the Pierhead at the same time. So I'm keeping an eye on him. I don't think I'll sneak in front of him because he needs the dock hands first. I might just try and get in the harbor and float around, get some lines tied on. Let this guy get docked up and then come in behind him, but not exactly sure what he's doing. He's going awful slow, but he should hit the Pierhead about the same time, so that's how it goes. Well, there he is. There's the Ludington Pierheads. So I have backed her down. Just going to kind of let this guy go in. Going super slow, that's okay. I'm usually taking the Pierheads a little faster than I should, so I'm going to slow it down and stay on his stern. Just get outside the marina, get some lines tied up, and once I know he's secured, I'll pull in so we can wrangle the dock hands to help get me tied up. We made it. It's almost 6 o'clock. It's about 4 hours after we left. We're all tied up. We made it to the dock. I made it to the dock with a little help from our friends. Kathy had wrangled up quite a crew. Came in, rode the wind in, bounced it off the dock, and we're all tied up. So Andromeda is back home, and now we get to learn our new battery systems and finish up our projects. We're 60 days out. It's time to get stuff done and head on down the river. What do you think of the state of the boat right now?
It's a hot mess. It's driving me nuts. You know it is.
We have had a little bit of time to explore the house battery system. So far we love it. Everything's working just perfect. Here's how it's all put together. Tucked underneath the stairs going up to the fly bridge is our original battery switches. That is the house battery on-off switch that was added in our main TC breaker panel. We did discover that a lot of these circuits are engine related and were left on the starting batteries for the boat. A lot of that is our SmartCraft stuff, emergency bilge pumps, all that kind of stuff needed to stay there. This panel also sends the 12 volt over to the house breaker panel. But starting with the house batteries, the 4 AGM batteries were tucked neatly underneath the stairs. They fit in there great, and being that they were about 400 or just over 400 pounds, getting them on the port side of the boat was important. So we have them tucked neatly under the stairs. We're happy with that. Down into the engine room, and this is our Victron Multi Plus 12 volt 3000 amp, and it is an inverter and a charger. So coming out of the Victron Multi Plus, there's the on-off switch for the inverter charger. You can see that the main line coming down from the batteries or going up to the batteries, depending on how you look at it, goes through the DCM 100. That donut that the cable goes through takes readings and passes it up to the Maritron display. And then there's a large fuse from there. There's our Belmar high output alternator. It is on the starboard engine, acting as one of the charging sources. That is wired to the Belmar Max Charge. Has a little display on it. That is a 12-volt multi-stage regulator. It's a Belmar product, so it was plug and play with the alternator. Those connections there matched some of the connections coming off the alternator, making it easy to install and easy for the two components to talk to each other. That alternator cabling passes through the charge regulator and it is fused before it heads up to the battery bank. Tucked over on the port side is our Victron ArgoFET battery isolator. And finally, over on our wall, something we're getting used to, is our Maritron display, and below that is our Victron display. So you can see right now that there's 136 watts from shore going into the Victron. There are 0 AC loads coming off the Victron, and the Victron Multi Plus is acting like a charger, sending 128 watts to the house bank. Up above, we have it set up so that you can see currently there's 13.2 volts on the house bank. The battery temperature is 74 degrees. There's 99% of our house bank capacity left, and there's currently an 8.4 amp trickle charge going in. When we're on the house bank and we turn circuits on, this number shows up as a negative to show how much we're drawing off of the battery bank at that time. The Maritron display is also expandable, so we've already purchased an audible alarm so that if the battery bank drops down too far, the audible alarm will go off and we'll be able to know that the batteries are being drawn too far down and it's time to charge them. We can hook up a weather station, we can hook up all of our tankage gauges. It's really just a versatile display. We'd be able to sit here in the salon and watch wind speed or monitor our tank levels. All of them could be set up to alarms, so if the wind's picked up or our tanks got too low, the alarms could go off. It's really just amazing how much stuff you can add to that Maritron display, and we're looking forward to experimenting with that a little bit. We haven't had a whole lot of time to monkey with the Victron display. Again, I know it's redundant to have these two displays. The bottom Victron display was going to be where the remote switch was for the inverter charger, but the last minute this came off another boat used, and the Marina Barrett's gave us a deal that we couldn't pass up on, so we're sort of having fun experimenting with the two displays, although we find ourselves deferring to the Maritron more often than not. So we've had some fun monitoring our systems, for instance plugging in the toaster or using a small floor heater or a desk fan to see how many amps it draws off the system, and we're able to calculate how many hours a day we can run off the house bank. Of course, there's so much more to learn. These are just some of the initial impressions. It has been fun to sort of learn how many amps each of our different components draws, and we're starting to keep good records of that. So before long, we'll have an easy way to know how much stuff we can run when we're on the house battery system. But that's our system. We couldn't be happier with it. We're looking forward to getting out there on the hook and really put this thing to the test.